climate. An instructional video by Mr. O'Daniel and Mrs. Logus. Weather versus climate. What's the difference? Weather is the atmospheric conditions, along with short-term changes of a certain place at a certain time. But climate is long-term. It's the long-term average conditions that occur in an area, particular region. Now, weather is what's happening right now. Yesterday was so nice. I could have walked my dog. Can't do it today because it's going to be so cold. Will it snow this week? Do I need a jacket today? Is it going to rain? I should have brought my umbrella. But climate, what's the weather like in Australia? Does it rain a lot in Italy? It rains a lot in England. Why does it rain so much in Seattle? That's a great question. It rains all the time there. Now, there are several factors that affect climate. 7, actually. So if you want to number your paper 1 through 7, you can. Leave some space for pics. Because Mr. OD's artwork is really cool. Factor number 1, latitude. Attitude, flatitude, latitude. The distance away from the equator. So the higher latitudes, the farther away from the equator, the colder it is. But right at the equator, you will notice it is hot. Temperatures decrease as latitude increases. If you notice, the numbers increase the further north and the further south from the equator. Latitude also affects precipitation. Precipitation, any water that falls from the sky, ice, rain, hail, snow, sleet. At the equator, it's more wet, more moisture, warmer. Farther away, the farthest at the poles, it's dry, but in St. Louis, we're right in the middle of wet and dry, which is why we get both. Different heating patterns cause some latitudes to be dry while others are wet. Factor 2, altitude or elevation. Temperatures decrease, go down, they get cooler as altitude elevation increases. So if you've ever traveled up to Pikes Peak in Colorado, you probably were wearing shorts because you probably went in the summertime, and when you got up to the top, there was snow. So think about this guy in the picture. What should the climber wear on his feet? Flip-flops or boots? Number 3, locations near the center of large land masses. St. Louis is a perfect example of this. Our record high, 105 degrees Fahrenheit. Record low, negative 17 degrees Fahrenheit. Wide range of temperatures. However, locations near the center of large land masses can also be very dry. That's a tendency. Remember, climate is an average. So sometimes this is not true. Like St. Louis. Number 4, large bodies of water. Water holds in heat. So, if we're looking at the USA, St. Louis, we're in the middle, 89 degrees to 24 degrees, average, crazy, wide range. But Seattle, 75 degrees to 36 degrees. The oceans on the east side and on the west side, they hold in the heat, so that keeps the temperatures closer together, more the same. So they have a low range in temperature. Similar all year round. Large bodies of water don't forget the Great Lakes. So Great Lakes have a lot of moisture. They cause more precipitation to fall in the area. Which is why there's lots of precipitation in the northeast of the United States. Mountains stop the wind. So the wind direction is blowing into the mountains, and it's causing the wind it's blocking the wind basically. And as it rises, it cools and condenses into clouds so that there's precipitation. Well, less moisture gets past the mountains, which is why on the other side of the mountains it's dry. And that effect is called the rain shadow effect. There's also less cool winds on the rain shadow side of the mountains. 6, ocean currents. So, the U.S. again, think about this. The water on both sides of the United States. The water on the west coast is coming from the North Arctic. which is why it's cold. And the water on the other side is coming from the equator, which is why it's warm. Number 7, prevailing winds. Now, in the USA, we have winds coming from the west. So, we get the weather from the west. The average wind direction creates different climates around our country. An example is that rain shadow. So we've got some mountains on the west coast, then we have dry, then we have mountains, then we have a dry desert, and then look at the Great Lakes. So the prevailing winds blows all of that over. Recap. Latitude. Factors that affect climate. Number 1, latitude. Farther away from the equator, north or south. Altitude. Higher up, mountains. 3, centers of large land masses. 4, large bodies of water. 5, mountains. Pikes Peak. 6, ocean currents. Grab a shell, dude. Nemo. Number 7, prevailing wind direction. These are all factors that affect climate.